What do you do? She gets the phone book out and opens it up and finds the number for the funeral home because there was no ambulance at that time.
My father and I were the first to respond to the Sims house. We walked in and found Dr. Sims and Mrs. Sims and Joy there in the back bedroom. And my life's never been the same since.
Mrs. Sims is still showing signs of life. She's still breathing. Mr. Sims is still breathing. Joy Sims, unfortunately, is dead.
Within moments, I was scared. When I saw my father's reaction, his fear, his concern, shock quickly turned to fear because it had just happened.
The Beavises are aware that this is a crime scene, so they try to be mindful of not disturbing things and touching things unnecessarily. And the evidence shows that they didn't just go through the house disturbing the scene.
The first police officer on the scene was a deputy sheriff named Larry Campbell, who later became sheriff.
And it was his birthday. It was the night he turned 24 years old.
He was getting ready to go out when he got the call. He tried to give it away. He said, "Hey, I've got a party to go to. Can't somebody else go handle it?" Because it was originally presented as a car accident with a fatality. And there was a car accident with 2 fatalities. And then by the time he's on the way to it, reluctantly, he's told it's a signal fire, which means a murder.
He calls the sheriff and he calls the chief of detective, Jack Dawkins. And at some point, the turf war starts entering into this case, and the sheriff's office personnel are there, and they say, "We're in charge of this. This is our case." And they ask the police officers to leave.
The crime scene was almost immediately contaminated by several people going in and out of the house.
So many cops are tramping in and out, and they're in a high state of excitement. Larry always seemed to indicate just that the scene just might not have been as well protected as it should have been. Not by any negligence, but just by the sheer excitement of everybody trying to do something at once.
Really, the sheriff's department didn't know how to handle a crime like this. It had never been a crime like that in Tallahassee before. According to some accounts, neighbors came over to the house to see what was going on. They found souvenirs. They pick up an ashtray and take it with them, or put a cigarette out in the ashtray, or things like that. One account was the sheriff's investigators even made a pot of coffee because they knew it was going to be a long night working the crime scene.
The sheriff's office, I think, made mistakes with how they treated the scene that night, but I don't fault them for those things. I think the bigger problem was that they couldn't work with the police department, and that started to show up that night, and it continued on a few days where they just wanted to run the investigation.
My parents sat in our living room at that point and watched all the flash bulbs go off in the Sims yard from all the investigators taking pictures.
It was probably around 1 or 2 in the morning, that I can't remember. And we heard this someone just absolutely beating on the front door, and it was very frightening. And the police came up to the window, identified themselves. There were 2, and we let them in. But they grilled us. You can't imagine how they grilled us. Where we had been that day, who called us on the phone that day, who had been into our house that day. And this went on all night.
Law enforcement was just as incapable of dealing with it as back then as the total community was. We just didn't know how to handle it. I mean, all of a sudden, in one night, our whole life changed.
The whole town went crazy and started buying guns. They canceled Halloween. Women supposedly started filling squirt guns with ammonia. Door
locks were sold out. All the pistols were sold out.
We started locking our doors. We had the lock masters come in and put bolts on our doors. This is the first time ever.
And then a few days later, we started having funerals. It was packed, standing room only, First Baptist. People in our class, in the class ahead of us at Leon, were there.
I do remember going. I remember the church was packed. I mean, packed. And it was the largest church in town, and you hardly had a place to sit.
It was hard to sit there and see the two caskets in front and think that your friend was in one of them.
They were buried in Meridian. Joy, her father, and her mother were all buried in a little church there.
I went to school Monday, and yeah, I mean, everybody sort of wanted to know what was going on and what happened, and you know, we were a little close to the vest about it because we were asked to be, you know, by law enforcement.
People kind of looked at other people they didn't know maybe in a little different way.
I mean, nobody knew whether it was your next door neighbor that did it or your, you know, the kids that you went to school with.
People were just struck by, is there still a killer out there?
Within a matter of a few days, it became quite apparent they didn't have any idea what happened.
Everybody was looking for an answer, however far-fetched and however thin it might seem. They were chasing every possible lead.
Captain Baldry lived up here on our corner, and I started talking with him a minute, and he says, "We know who did it, but we can't touch him with a 10-foot pole."
You know what you did. I know what you did. Old good-hearted Joe over knows what you did.
Did anybody see me go into that house?
You know that whether they did or not, Charlie.
Well, I think you know, initially the focus was on Dr. Roberts at First Baptist. Mrs. Sims had had some difficulty with him, as many women did.
C.A. Roberts was the pastor of First Baptist Church at the time, and maybe still the largest church in Tallahassee. See, in the 50s and 60s, everybody went by initials. C.A. stood for Cecil Albert.
C.A. Roberts was a remarkable guy. He's from Waco, Texas. He's born October 1931, goes to school at Baylor, does a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD at Southwestern Baptist Divinity School in Fort Worth. He gets married in '53, and he eventually arrives in Tallahassee by way of Altus, Oklahoma, and immediately makes an impression because he wins the Tallahassee Junior Chamber of Commerce Man of the Year in 1963. The next year, he wins the Florida Man of the Year.
He was apparently a spellbinding speaker. People came and packed his sermons, sometimes just to listen to them. I mean, they may have gone to the morning service, came back for the afternoon service.
He was called out for all the convocations, the prayers at in the stadium, you know, when you were allowed to pray.
Others looked at him and with just reverence, almost messianic-like. He was just revered. He was the reverend in every sense of the way. But then they found out who the real person was.
So Helen Sims resigns her post as secretary of First Baptist Church just days before the murder. And we don't know exactly why she resigns her post, but the rumor is that she knows too much.
The negatives that were coming out were things that were brought up during the investigations, things that they found out about his background and about his behavior.
We think he's having affairs with lots and lots and lots of women. And we know this because what happens is, as soon as the Sims family murder happens and he is eventually named as a suspect, the phones start ringing down at Tallahassee PD. And Larry Campbell is kind of shocked by this, all these women calling TPD and saying, "I didn't do it." Well, he eventually pieces this together, that as soon as C.A. Roberts is named a suspect, all the women he's having affairs with get really kind of nervous.
When they blacklighted his office He was a pretty active little pastor.
Helen Sims has a front row seat to everything that's going on with C.A. Roberts.
I don't believe there was a love triangle involving the Reverend Roberts and Mrs. Sims. That is one thing people have speculated about for years. I found no evidence of that anywhere. He was known to have a cult following, according to some of the church members. If he had instructed these followers to go kill somebody, they would have done it, according to some of the sources I talked to.
In one way, it just doesn't all add up. But in another way, it adds up perfectly.
So on October 22nd, 1966, the night of the murders, C.A. Roberts is at the Florida State University football game. And Roberts is the team chaplain. And the video shows that he is there at the game. Now the question is, what happened at halftime?
Well, long about halftime, he disappeared. And second half came back around, and he was back on tape again.
Is there enough time between when he is last seen and when he comes back? Now, some people have said he came back in a different change of clothes. We don't know if that's true. That's been reported. That's been said by locals. The point is that we do have videotape of him at the game during the first half, and we have videotape of him at the game in the second half.
Well, the sheriff said we tried every route through every traffic conditions we could think of to get from Bill Campbell Stadium to the Sims house and back on the time period that he was gone, and it was impossible.
They never found a segment in the game film where he was not visible for more than 3 or 4 minutes. So they absolutely proved that he did not live. There had been a rumor that he had left for an unexplainable amount of time and came back with cuts and scratches. Well, they interviewed him within 2 days. There were no cuts and scratches.
Larry Campbell said to his dying day, C.A. Roberts did not do it.
I mean, there were some gaps, but not enough to go to Muriel court and do what he did and then come back. And that was pretty quickly eliminated.
Oh, I think you did it, Charlie. I think I've been pretty open about that.
Yeah. And Vernon, I was getting Vernon out of trouble.
Whatever the reason was, I think you did it.
And Vernon was there with me.
Yep.